If you don't put yourself first, darling, no one will do it for you. If you let people manipulate you and use you when you are aware that they are doing it and that is hurting you and you can do something about it but you don't, you are actually betraying yourself. I know that this may sound harsh, but that's the reality. And I got to learn this the hard way. I got to learn this through tears, through pain, through betrayals, and through burnout. A couple of years ago, I went through a burnout, and before that, I didn't truly believe that burnout actually exists. And I never thought that it could happen to me. Society believes that people that go through burnout are lazy, that they don't work hard enough, or they're simply weak. And being honest, I used to think the same way, but that is far from reality. When I was burning out, I found myself working harder than ever. I was giving my all, when in reality, my cup was already empty, and I didn't have much left to give. And I got to feel drained and miserable. I lost motivation to do absolutely anything. And I isolated myself from my family and friends, and all I wanted was to be left alone. And then it hit me. God was trying to tell me something. God was trying to tell me that I had to pause, to take a few steps back, to reflect on my life and reassess my priorities, where I was versus where I wanted to be. I had to see what I was doing with myself, what I was doing with my life, and what was that doing to my health and my relationships. And I figured out that I got to the burnout point because I failed to put myself first. That's it. That was it. As simple as this. I was always trying to give, but was not allowing to receive. And the thing is that you cannot keep on giving without keeping anything for yourself. If you have more for yourself, then you can give to others. I got to feel empty. I was not feeling myself because I was trying to give from an empty cup, and I didn't take the time to refill mine. Ever since I got to experience the burnout, I started doing a couple of things which helped me to overcome it and to start putting myself first. And I'm sure that these things can help you to prioritize yourself. I really hope that most of you are already doing it, but if you're not, I'm sure that you can start doing it after watching this video. The first thing I started doing is cutting toxic people out of my life. I know that this sounds like a very basic advice, but it turns out that we don't get to do it. We keep on hanging out with people who damage our self-image, who make us doubt ourselves, who make us question our worth. These type of people that constantly complain. They complain about everything and everyone as if the whole world is against them, but it's never them. It's never their fault. They never say I'm sorry, even when they're wrong. And I used to try to save these type of people. I tried to help them until I realized that you cannot help people that don't want to be helped. You cannot change someone that doesn't want to be changed. And it's not your job changing people. And I no longer communicate with people who are not willing to listen, who are not willing to understand and learn. I used to hang out with people who are very toxic. These type of people that try to drag you down and bring you to their low level. These type of vampires don't want to see you win. They don't want you to succeed. Whenever you share positive news with these type of people, they'll get bitter, they'll become resentful, and they will even envy you. And I got to experience this myself. I used to have friends, or to be exact, frenemies, that were usually manipulating and twisting my words in their favor, as if only their point of view was valid. And for them, I was always at fault. I was always wrong. And they made me doubt myself and my abilities. They made me question my worth and whether I was good enough. These type of energy vampires are not bringing any good to your life, darling. They're only sucking the energy out of you. And if you're surrounding yourself with these type of people, ask yourself, why are you doing it? What are they bringing into your life? What are you hanging around them? Remember that it's your choice who you get to spend your time with, who you get to allow into your life. Because trust me, darling, being surrounded by the wrong people can really make you see yourself in the wrong light. And a toxic person doesn't have to be your friend. It can be your spouse, a family member, your boss, or your colleague. And if you find yourself working in a toxic environment, and despite all your efforts to change the things there for the better, it may be that you simply cannot change your workplace, but you can change your job. Always remember that you have a choice, darling. You don't have to stay stuck at a job that you don't like. You don't have to be stuck in a place where you don't feel good about yourself, where you're being belittled all the time. We don't have to follow the example of our parents. Our parents stay stuck at one job forever simply because they didn't know any better. But in this day and age, when the entrepreneurship is booming and more people are going out on their own instead of joining a company, and more are succeeding at this, we have so many more possibilities. Think about it. You can set yourself free. You have this power, darling. You can minimize this toxicity in your life. I feel so much better after cutting off the toxic people out of my life and leaving toxic situations and environments behind. Now my friend circle is much smaller. I lost a few frenemies, but that's for the better. I don't need them in my life. I'm doing much better off without them. And now I feel safe to share anything with my close friends. Whenever I'm happy, I know that the people around me will cheer for me. They will celebrate my successes. And whenever I'm going through a hardship, whenever I'm going through a low moment, I know that they will support me. They will try to calm me down and help me to find a solution. Instead of calling me weak, instead of calling me a drama queen, as some of the toxic people in my life used to do. Remember, quality over quantity, especially when it comes down to relationships and friendships. Choose your circle wisely, darling, because when you surround yourself with the right people, this will really make a positive change in your life. The second thing I started doing is saying no. I know that this is another simple thing, but we don't get to do it often enough. I used to be a huge people pleaser and was trying to make everybody happy but me. I was putting everybody else before me because I was afraid that I can disappoint people. But I was putting me and my happiness last. And with the years, I realized that I cannot keep on going like this. I had to change something. I used to say yes to most of my friends' requests. And I ended up running like a chicken after work, going from one place to another when they were far in distance because I was trying to go the extra mile, because I wanted my friends to be heard, to be seen, to be loved. But I didn't get to ask myself whether I felt loved, whether they were giving the same attention to me as the attention I was giving to them. And I got to realize that not everybody deserved my attention and my energy. There were people that I didn't like so much. There were people that I was feeling exhausted after meeting with them. And I had to minimize the time I spent with them. I couldn't continue prioritizing others' needs over mine when that was hurting me. I had to learn to protect myself, my peace, and I had to set this boundary. I had to learn to say no. When I was younger and I was just starting my career, I was so eager to do everything. And I was trying to say yes to all the requests from my boss, from my colleagues. And when you are a junior, the more senior people from you will hand you over their tasks and expect you to do a lot of extra work. But this might be a test. They might be testing your limits. And if you don't set a boundary, they'll keep on giving you more work. And I got to experience that. I kept on saying yes to work requests, and they kept on giving me extra work in the end of my working day. They kept on giving me additional assignments, but I think that they were doing it because they were testing my limits. If I was willing to take more work, they were giving me more work. And I had to stand up for myself. I had to learn to say no and know that I was not supposed to do all the tasks that they were giving me. I had the right to say no, and I started saying no. I didn't have to stay late in the office. I didn't have to do all the work that they were giving me immediately. Even if people tell you that some work is urgent, in most of the cases it turns out that it's not. How many cases I had when I was rushing to finish something because I was told that it was urgent, and in the end it turned out that people didn't even use it. People went for another alternative, or they simply didn't plan enough, and what they asked me to do was not necessary. I've experienced so many situations in my work experience that I'm laughing right now. But you don't have to sacrifice your personal time, darling, so that you satisfy your company crazy requests. You have the right to say no. You have the right for your personal time. After hours are not required. After I started saying no to people in my personal and professional life, I got to have more time for myself. I finally had the time to go to the gym more often, to start developing new skills, to start working on my hobbies, to feel more energized, more motivated for work, more motivated to meet with people, to spend time with them, simply because I had more time and more energy. When you cut the toxic people out of your life, when you start saying no and set clear boundaries, you'll get to be respected more. And you'll get to feel much more better about yourself. And I'm telling you this from experience because now I feel so much happier and I get to believe so much more in myself and my abilities. I know when to draw the line. I know when to say no. I learned how to set boundaries and hold them. And you can do the same. Put yourself first, darling. Prioritize your own health and well-being. And trust me, you're gonna see a positive change in your life. If you struggle to set boundaries, if you struggle to detach, if you find it hard to believe in yourself, to focus on you, if you tend to feel sorry for yourself, check out my other videos. I'm sure they can be helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!